And part of this is, again, it all goes back to science, which is if you have two people who weigh the exact same. So let's say you have a 180-pound man, one has lean muscle mass and the other does not. Even though they weigh the same amount from like a pound standpoint, their bodies are actually in very different states, right? That the lean muscle mass kind of more actively burns the calories versus not having that. And that's really what it sounds like a lot of the work that you've done is to drive people to not be as scared of kind of developing that lean muscle mass, but actually seeking it out, right? And trying to put your body in a position where the muscles themselves are burning the fat or burning the calories, and therefore the diet plus that lean muscle mass really does the work for you.
Right. The example you gave of, two men each weighing 180 pounds, but with different body composition is a good one because they do not have the same health risks at all. So the health risks that are associated with being overweight or obese are due to body fat, and they're not due to muscle. So, this is one of the drawbacks of the most commonly used measure, body mass index. So it's an idea, it's a good idea to normalize body weight for how tall you are and so on. But the fact is, there are, athletes mainly, and some other people who, are clinically overweight or even obese, but it's all muscle, and they don't have the health risks. Conversely, there are people who are normal weight. There's a phenomenon called normal weight obesity, and they have a very high level of body fat, even though they are of normal weight, and they have the exact same health risks as somebody who is obese. So yeah, it's all driven by body fat. The more muscle and less body fat you have, within limits, of course, but speaking very generally, the healthier you are. The more, it's not even just a matter of the muscle burning the calories to keep you at a normal weight. It's also a matter of your metabolism is functioning properly, so that you don't have these high risks of all the chronic diseases that are so rampant in our society. Type 2 diabetes has just risen, tremendously, like something like 8 to 10-fold just in the last several decades. So those of us who talk about this topic, I think, are very well aware of this, but I think this one fact is not very well appreciated by most people who don't take a deep look at it, and that is that type 2 diabetes is just the end result of a long chain of events that lead ultimately to type 2 diabetes. So somebody becomes diabetic when their blood sugar is no longer under control and it rises. But all the events that lead to that are happening in the vast majority of people in the United States today. There was a recent study that showed that 88% of American adults had some kind of metabolic dysfunction, and only 12% were clinically metabolically healthy. So what that means is that all those people, that 88%, they're traveling that road to type 2 diabetes. That's the road you want to stay off, and by having good body composition, which is a relatively high level of muscle, low level of body fat, for both men and women, you stay off that road.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I saw you talk about, I think it was in an article that you wrote, was the difference in using like a body mass index as a measurement for health versus literally just measuring somebody's waistline, right? And so maybe kind of talk about the kind of the difference there. And most people hear that and they kind of like, well, that's really simplistic. But you may basically make the argument like, hey, literally measuring the waistline could be a better way to measure health.
Right. And it is. So body mass index, like I was just saying, it doesn't take into account the proportions of muscle and body fat that somebody has. So a very simple measure, and this has been studied a lot, is and I want to, let me back up just a little bit. I just want to say a lot of people make this point about that I just made about, okay, they're all there are these athletes that have a high body mass index, but they're in good health and so on. And it's, sure, I agree. However, that just does not apply to most people. BMI is actually more likely to underestimate health risks because of this phenomenon of normal weight obesity, right? So people have high body fat and they look, according to BMI, they look normal when in fact they have high health risks. In any case, waist size is actually better. So if somebody is, their waist size should be 1/2 or less of their height. And that is a better measure of metabolic and chronic disease risk than body mass index.
Really?
So if somebody is 6 feet tall, they should have a 36-inch or less waist size to be healthy.
Yeah.